Good evening, everyone. The public hearing for tonight, Monday, April 15th, 2019, shall be called to order. My name is Councilwoman Claudine Fox, and I will be chairing the public hearing this evening. To my right, I have Councilman John Gale, and to my left, I have Council President Gwendolyn Thames, and we are pleased to be here with you this evening. So before we get started, I am just going to read over the rules. The public hearings shall be conducted in accordance with the following procedures. Each person wishing to address the council or committee thereof shall, upon recognition by the presiding officer, give his or her name, address, and if he or she represents a group, shall, in addition, state for the record the name and address of said group or organization, shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who becomes boisterous while addressing the council shall be forthwith barred by the presiding officer from further audience at said meeting unless permission to remain is granted by 2/3 vote of the council members present and voting. During the public hearing, there shall be no debate by the council, although questions may be asked by council of persons making such presentation. So with each item on the agenda, we have 6 items tonight. I'm going to ask 2 questions. For the first question, I'm going to ask if there's anyone speaking in favor of, and I'm going to ask that 3 times. So if you are in favor of the item that is on that we're talking about, please come up to the podium. Once that happens, once the person in favor finishes, I'm then going to ask if there's anyone opposed. I'll ask that 3 times. That's your opportunity, if you're opposed to the agenda item, to come up to the podium. Once nobody has responded to that question after I've asked 3 times, we're moving on to the next agenda item. Okay? All right. So first up, we have an ordinance amending section 22-25 and 22-26 of the Municipal Code, which addresses parking violation citations and the fines and penalties for unlawful parking. Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this ordinance? All right. Is there anyone here speaking against or opposed to this ordinance? Come on up, state your name and your address, please.
Good evening. Ann Goshjigian, 80 Weathersfield Avenue, Hartford. Tonight I am wearing my other hat, and I'm here representing the Hartford News. And myself. I would like to speak against this to a degree because I don't think this has been a well thought out plan. In addition to the changing of fines and the penalties for late payments, what we have here is something that is very, very hard to oversee. Take, for instance, one cannot park within 25 feet of a stop sign, a crosswalk, or an intersection. Is the public intended to carry tape measures in their cars? Serious question. Are we intended to carry tape measures, or do we just use our eyes? Do the enforcers from the Hartford Parking Authority, do they carry tape measures? Does the Hartford Police Department carry tape measures? How do they know that we are not 25.5 feet away from a stop sign, and they say we're 24.5 feet away from a stop sign, and we get a ticket? And if we go to protest that ticket, where is the proof? Who has the burden of proof to say what the exact distance from the stop sign or the fire hydrant or the driveway is? You also have one there that says it is illegal to park nearer than 5 feet from a driveway. I left my tape measure in the car. Seriously, I wanted to do a demo when I was up here. But let's say you're 4.5 feet away from a driveway. That's what, 54 inches. So let's think about that. Hartford have street parking. A lot of that street parking is not with marked out lined spaces. You pull up to the curb, you park your car, you try to park at the right distance from the curb. You don't want to be halfway out in the street. Most people do that very well. So unless the city is prepared to mark clearly to all drivers exactly where you're out of the limit. In other words, no parking beyond this point. Not just with stop signs, with fire hydrants, with driveways, with crosswalks, with intersections, with curb cuts, which are also mentioned here. So what you're looking at here is basically something that's saying, we're going to do this, and we decide. And I'm not quite sure how we're going to measure or really determine exactly where you are. And if you go to challenge your ticket, where's the proof going to be? What's it going to be, a picture? Can you tell from a photograph what the distance is? I don't think so. It's not doable. It's not doable unless everything is clearly marked or lined so people can see. Then what it turns out to be is just another cash cow for fines and tickets. And by the way, it also says those violations mean that we can tow you if we want to, and it's your nut if you want to get your car back. So I'm parked 4.5 feet from a driveway, and I get a $42 ticket, and I get a tow? I don't think so. And I think if you try to do this, I personally will go out there in public and make everyone aware of it and see what kind of support we can rally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Is there anyone here speaking against or opposed to this ordinance? Oh, in favor, sorry. Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here opposed to this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking against this ordinance? Is there anyone speaking against this ordinance? All right, we are going to move on to item number 2 on our agenda, a resolution which would allow the city to permit the construction of a 24-foot by 36-foot prefabricated barn structure by the Ebony Horsewoman, Inc., within the area bounded for its activities in accordance with the organization's lease agreement with the city for the use of a portion of Keeney Park. Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this agenda item? All right, is there anyone opposed to this agenda item? Come on up. State your name and your address again, please.
My name is Ann Goshegi, and I live at 80 Weathersfield Avenue. I'm not necessarily against this, but I have some questions. I know you're not obligated to answer them. The first question would be, who is paying for this structure? The second question would be, what needs to be done to this structure? Will it need to be painted, this prefab structure? Will that structure be using electricity? Will that structure be connected to city water? Will that structure need maintenance? All that boils down to who is going to pay for this. I believe that the Parks and Rec Commission should have a say. They should be able to see what this structure would look like. Their approval is very important for the aesthetics, because the aesthetics of everything that goes on in Hartford Park should be run by the Park and Rec Commission, PRAC, before it's done. So I would hope you would keep those things in mind and see if this is going to be another expense for the city, or if the Ebony Horsewomen are taking care of that themselves, or with some funds that they've received from another source. Thank you.
Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking opposed to this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking against this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking against this agenda item? Okay, moving on to item number 3, an ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 5, Section 5-33 and Chapter 2, Section 26-9 of the Hartford Municipal Code. Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this item? Come on up. Please state your name and your address. I'm setting a timer on my phone.
My name is Brian Gallagher, 237 Oxford Street on the West End. I represent Hartford Soccer, the youth soccer program for the city of Hartford. I'm also on PRAC as well. We are in favor of the ordinance. They did a great job of reaching out to the community. I also work in the school system. I'm an athletic director for one of the public schools in Hartford. We were invited to the table from day one to talk about the cost of what it's going to cost for Dillon. I do think it is still high, but I want it to be somewhat high. I want this to be not for every day, let's have all of our games on this field. This should be a special event that we're using Dillon Stadium for. It's not, Cole Park. We have 3 artificial fields now in the city of Hartford. We need to manage who plays on them better and who gets to them for games and practice and whatnot, but that's a whole nother discussion. But in terms of for the fee structure, I think it's high. My only real concern is going to be the $25,000 that's set aside for nonprofit. It's tier 1, which is nonprofits and the Hartford school system, and how that's going to be divvied up. My worry is that one group or another is going to want to use it every day. For instance, like Hartford Public Schools. In the past, one of the schools used this every single day for their teams, and because they're close to it or whatever, and it should be shared amongst the whole community. And so that $25,000, we need to figure out how that's going to be divvied up. Maybe a percentage goes to nonprofits, percentage goes to Harvard schools, and they can figure out how they want to use that funds. But because it's going to be real expensive to use this field. Right now we're looking at it's $350 for 3 hours. Last year my budget for all of Hartford soccer was $15,000, and more than half of that goes to pay for insurance for the kids. And so in order to pay for fields is crazy, especially when I'm doing this for the kids at Hartford. And so we would like to use Dillon. I don't have a lot of my younger teams will not be able to because it's too big of a field, but our older teams can and should. But it should be for special events for them. We're looking at 4 or 5 games, not to do this every single weekend. But so for that 4 or 5 games, we should be able to use the $25,000 to cover that. One of the things that's proposed right now for that $25,000 is that you can only use it to up to half. So that still puts me, well over what my budget is to pay for a field. Even if I'm only going to do it for, 4 or 5 games, it still costs me a chunk of change. And so I think you should be able to divvy it out between the different groups evenly, and then also let them decide how much they want to use. If they want to use it over 10 games and spread it out, then that's fine. But to be able to, use it, like for instance, the football guys, when they use this field, they're only going to be able to use it for 2 or 3 games possible because of when their season is and when the field is going to be lined for them. So for them to only be able to use it, their money for half of it would be unfair. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was in favor, right? Okay, yep. Is there anyone here speaking against this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking against this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking against this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this ordinance? All right, moving on to item number 4. A resolution authorizing the city to obtain easements from St. Francis Hospital and Medical Center. Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking against this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking against this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking against this resolution? Okay, moving on to item number 5. A resolution authorizing the execution of a lease agreement including any easement that may be required between the City of Hartford and the Connecticut Performing Arts Partners. Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking against this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking against this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking, oh, I forgot to turn the timer off. Is there anyone here speaking against this resolution? Okay, moving on to our last and final agenda item, a resolution authorizing the City of Hartford to enter into a development agreement and ground lease with RMS Companies for the development of 1212 Main Street, Hartford, with an option to develop other parcels located in the downtown north development. Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this resolution? Come on up. State your name and where you live.
My name is Randy Salvatore. I live at 1135 Ponus Ridge Road in New Canaan, Connecticut. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am the owner of RMS Companies, and I know many of you are very familiar with the proposed plan for the Dono site, but in its entirety, our plan lays out about 800 apartments, about 30,000 square feet of community retail, a proposed grocery store of about 30,000 square feet, and then a little over 2,000 parking spaces to accommodate some of what's being displaced, as well as parking for the associated apartments. The first phase, Parcel C, which is what's part of this proposed agreement, is approximately 200 apartments, 250 parking spaces with retail on the ground floor of a good part of that building as well. Over the past 10 to 12 months, we've met with numerous local community groups, constituents of the areas, and really done a lot of listening and helped to formulate some more of our plans, and a lot of that made it into the DLDA. Obviously, that's a big part of the community benefits that are in there in terms of local hiring, affordable housing, minority and women-owned business hiring. So that's all part of the agreement. As you know, this property is surrounded by litigation with the Landino Group from the past, so we've been working with the city on that litigation over the past several months. And from our perspective as developer, and I think as also from the city's perspective, the important thing about dealing with this now while the litigation is going on is that they can work in parallel courses. So if you were to move this forward and it was to be ultimately approved to move forward, obviously subject to litigation, we as a developer can continue our planning, our detailed drawings in parallel course to the litigation, so that once the litigation is ultimately resolved, we can break ground immediately. In development, timing is critical. Markets come and go, and so to the extent that we can move that forward, we'll continue to invest in the process and in the project so that it would be ready to go through the town boards very quickly. And lastly, I'll say that where I stand today, we are ready, willing, and able to do this development. We're financially capable. The funds are readily available to move ahead, so this isn't just a process in getting something approved. We are ready to go as soon as you all are ready to go in terms of your approval process, and as soon as the litigation is there. And just as importantly, we're really excited to continue our work in Hartford. We had renovated the Goodwin Hotel about a year and a half ago, and we continue to invest in that property. And so we're excited to continue on and really to fulfill the vision that you all had many years back when you started and built the ballpark, which obviously has been very successful, but to complete the picture around that. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and hopefully we can fulfill that vision together. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Questions, sure.
Oh, no, we're all set. I was just making sure. Inclusive. Is there anyone here speaking against this resolution? Is there anyone here speaking against this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking against this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of this agenda item? Hello.
Hello.
Say your name and where you live, please.
I, Charles Matthews, 4 Sunnydale Road, West Hartford, Connecticut. I rise to speak in favor of this agenda item. As some of you may know, I'm the former chair of the Stadium Authority, and while we certainly built the stadium, and I think it's no secret, we have had ups and downs with the construction of the stadium. I think overall it's been good news for the city. I've said to many people that this whole idea is not simply about the stadium. It's about a new big idea. And that big idea is more than just the baseball stadium. When I think of baseball stadium, I think of Bloomingdale's for you shoppers. You know, if you're going to build a mall, you build a Bloomingdale's or a Nordstrom's or some big department store, and guess what happens then? All the other folks come around and make private investments. And when you look at the 12 to 19 acres around the stadium, it's in the best interest, I believe, of the city. And when we started this project, we thought so then, we think so now, to have a whole new neighborhood, apartments, retail, commercial space. Not only does that improve the city tax revenues, but it's also connect the dots between a new neighborhood that hopefully will be built and the convention center, Front Street, the XL Center. I tell people all the time, think about Charter Oak, with all the new development there. That used to be just simply a residential housing complex. Now you have Walmart, you have all kinds of things in that area. Think about Blueback Square. And not only will that be a boon, in my opinion, to the downtown, but I truly believe with all the passion in my body that this is a great growth opportunity, a job opportunity, a quality of life opportunity for all the neighborhoods and people who live north down North Main Street, who live west down Albany Avenue. I think this will be the catalyst to have stimulation all through our city north. For those of you who may know, I spent probably 10 years in the 80s and 90s, some of you may not have been born then, on city council. And not you, John, on city council. And I was also chair of budget, chair of plan and zone, development and zoning, and I tried every time I met a developer to get that developer to build something north of 84. It was so difficult. I think the baseball park is our Bloomingdale's again. We now have a major development piece north of 84. Over the course of the next 3 years, think about this, wrap your head around this. Over 1 million people will come to the Dono neighborhood. By the end of September, over 1 million people. I dare say less than 25% of them will probably visit that neighborhood without the ballpark. Think what will happen when you have apartments, when you have restaurants, when you have commercial office space. Think what happens to the city in the dark days of summer, May until September, not a whole lot of folks on the street. Think what happens to this city, a place where people can live, work, and play. And it won't be just downtown. Again, I firmly believe this will really benefit folks down Albany Avenue and Main Street. I rise in support of this project, and I think as a council person, give you my best advice, when you're on council, you gotta look to the future. Many people in politics look to the past. You can't change the past. All you can do is say, what can I do as a council person to make life a little bit better for those people I serve? I think this project would make life a little bit better for all the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here speaking against this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking against this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking against this agenda item? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of agenda item number 6? Is there anyone here speaking in favor of agenda item number 6? Is there anyone speaking here in favor of agenda item number 6? All right, that concludes tonight's public hearing. Thank you so much for coming out and being with us tonight.